Okay, I've been lucky enough to be here in Thailand twice in the past 2 weeks. I took a week holiday, which was something new to me and foreign to me. I'd forgotten what a holiday was, but in my arm is my true boss, Jude Domingo Rogers. He inspires me to do what I do and keeps me fresh and keeps me innovating and passionate about the work that I do in my day job. I'm not here to do my day job. I'm here to sort of go beyond that, one hopes. Okay, speaking of big, cuddly people, does anyone know this man? Steve Wozniak, you remember from last year, right? He is the co-founder of Apple Computers. So with this man, he revolutionized the world. This specific man, Steve Jobs, said 4 things in 2007, 4 words. This will change everything. And he was talking, of course, about the mobile phone or the smartphone. And that has changed the world. And as a technologist, that has inspired me greatly. But this is not why I showed you Steve Wozniak. For those in Penang that were there last year will remember this man and Steve Wozniak were judging me for an award. We won regionally. I don't need a global award. Thank you. Thank you. It was really something special to get this, because what we're trying to do is achieve social impact and to empower groups to achieve the same. So to get this recognition, to go to Singapore for free, they flew me, they put me up in a hotel, I brought the wife and the team, it was wonderful, was something really cool. Not just for me, but for my team. If we were having this conversation a year ago in Penang, this was the team at simplygiving.com. It's now more than doubled. But each and every new team member is as passionate about what we do as these people in front of you on the screen. So, like I've said, I'm not here to promote simplygiving.com. I'm only here to teach or tell you what we've learned by doing the work that we do. I am here to investigate how we, as patient groups, can achieve fundraising objectives. I understand that it's a very elusive and sometimes difficult thing amongst the work that we are trying to do, amongst managing our members, our workshops, the education, the advocacy. So fundraising, pretty tricky, right? Yeah, okay. No problem. So I'm very proud about this. I shot a very quick screen video just to show you the new platform, because we've come a long way since last year and we're seeing some good results. So I'm just planting this seed, and we'll come back to this in a few days' time. But I urge you, if you are into technology and are intrigued by online giving, have a look at our site, simplygiving.com. I always use Google when I find a video for you, so you can see how I found the things I'm going to show you. This is a new platform, and if you scroll down below the fold, as we call it in the tech world, you'll see a lot of things happening. A lot of grassroots community projects now launching on the platform across Asia. This one specific one is called Give.my. It's a school's project in Malaysia where teachers raise money to do extracurricular things with their students. Things like taking the kids to the zoo, things that the school would not be able to afford unless they crowdfunded. This is about fundraising strategy and donor engagement. The most important word on that slide right now is facilitator. I am not here, I'm kind of a democratic dictator. I am going to tell you what's right, and you can tell me if you think it's wrong, and I'll listen. But I will talk to you a little this morning in this session, but then really we're going to spend time doing group work, stepping away from CML for a moment and focusing on other case studies so we don't get clouded by what we're day-to-day immersed in. But a lot of time for you, and my job here is to facilitate your ideas and your outcomes. If I achieve that, my job is done and I can sleep. Now, I'm glad we have a bit of time, because this is maybe going to be a logistical nightmare. I have a manual that I've prepared specifically for Rising Sun. In it are a lot of slides, the important ones that you'll see today, so you can take notes around it. There's also a glossary of terms, so the things I say that throw you, you can look up. It's a dictionary. And there's also a white paper at the back. We didn't write it, it's from my competitor, but I loved it so much you had to have it. Okay, session 1. So this is the overview. Now, Thank you for those that completed the survey we distributed before Rising Sun. It really helped to provide me with insight as to where each of you are. I want to share some of these with you, and these are in your manual on page. So the size of group, number of members. The lion's share said or do have more than 100 members. I guessed these numbers. Perhaps I should have included higher ranges. I hope some of you didn't think this is CML patients in your country, because certainly I don't think it would be as low as this, right? So I'm hopeful that a lot of you have this big membership, because your membership is one of your most valuable communities for support and for potentially donations and support in kind. So this was interesting, but there are a few of you with smaller groups, so that tells me there's room to grow. Is growing your membership a key focus of each group? Is something you will focus on? Yes. Ultimately, it helps, doesn't it? Right? That's the whole sole aim. Okay, good. Forgive me. Do you have experience in fundraising? Thankfully, the majority do. Perhaps expectedly, a lot of you don't. So today, we will be wary of this and make sure that those that feel they are accelerating a little in fundraising can be facilitated. And those that are true beginners or sideliners can also get the help from me and the group that they need. Current source of funds. So a lot of us rely on grants, perhaps on Max Foundation grants. There is a lot of community fundraising happening. In the other field, you guys told me a little more and gave me a few answers that I hadn't included. Third-party events, gifts in kind, commissions, workshops. I know the Malaysian Society and family do a lot of workshops, and perhaps that could be something we focus on as monetizing it in other ways. But is anything in this surprising to some of the groups? Or it kind of makes sense, right? Okay, cool. So what is fundraising? I think you have all covered this for me by your introductions and examples. But like I said, and I think we're all unanimous in this, that it's not necessarily just about raising funds. It's also about capacity building and relationships. Now, that's something we all do pretty well in this room. As groups, we take our memberships very seriously. We get close. We become involved. And so relationships is as much fundraising as getting a dollar. We will focus on this a lot more. So whilst we're not all experienced fundraisers, we're pretty good at building relationships. And I hope that is a cornerstone of what we achieve over the next day and a half. So there are many, 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 many types of fundraising. If we wanted to do an earnest fundraising course, it would be a week long as a bare minimum, looking at legacy giving, looking at major gifts, looking at annual giving, looking at capital campaigns. Here are a few buzzwords, types of fundraising to stare at and go blank on. They are all in your glossary of terms if there's a specific one you need to know more about. If I was to cherry pick some of these based on our conversation, donor retention is something that's very interesting for us. By retention, we mean how do we get a donor and keep that person for a long time, whether it's an individual giver or a major donor. There's a few things in here that jump out at me as well. Recognition is a big one, and stewardship. Has anyone, a show of hands, who's heard of stewardship? Okay, very few, 2. Stewardship is better described as saying thank you. How often do we say thank you to our donors after Try for Cancer? Do we have a stewardship program where we concertedly aim at thanking our donors? Stewardship is slightly more complicated. It's getting them to do more than give once. But in its essence, oh, you're talking to Siri. Siri, what is regular giving? Okay, we'll get into stewardship a bit more later because I believe it's one of the most important things on this screen. Is there anything here that someone wants to say something about or ask about? I don't really want to dwell too much on this because it's academic. We're not academics, apart from the doctors. Yes? Sorry? Where are you looking? Because I can't... Moves management. Okay, that's there's a donor pyramid we're about to come to in our work manual. It's a better way, and in fact, allow me to make that a segue into the next slide. Moves management is taking someone you've acquired as a donor and moving them up the giving cycle, turning them into a regular giver, turning them into a bequest. So it's managing that relationship with a donor. Yeah? Okay, so a better way to look at this, and those that were at Rising Sun last year in Penang will have seen this wonderful triangle. And you may remember that I don't like triangles. They're pointy, they hurt, they have sharp edges. I'm more of a round man. But this is a very good way to understand fundraising in a broader sense. In your workbook, there is a specific section about this pyramid, and it contains a larger version of this. Please do not be frightened, but try and make sense of it for a minute. What is this telling us? What is the donor pyramid? Now, for me, it just says that at the bottom of a pyramid, you're aiming at a big audience, and you're attracting one-off donors, and you're using mass marketing, events, community occasions to attract donors. But then as you go up the pyramid, you're asking for something more, you're getting a bigger commitment, but usually, as a rule of thumb, the donation is bigger. Does that make sense? You don't need to crack this code. In fact, we're going to focus very little on this after this point in time. The best way to think about it is the number of donors is large at the beginning of your fundraising journey, or if you do broad events and campaigns, but the gifts get bigger at the top. How does this impact you? Well, perhaps you should focus at the top of the pyramid first. Perhaps working with government sponsors or working with major givers may take a bit more time, but that one gift will sustain your group for several years. So a lot of you are focusing on events. We need resources, we need collateral, we need posters, we need marketing, we need comms, we need... Why not just focus on writing one letter to one rich person saying you can make this group exist for years to come? It's a very different way of approaching fundraising. But the reason I'm making this point is maybe think less about the obvious and think more about who you might approach at the top end of the pyramid. Make sense? There's a few heads nodding there, which is good. Some pyramids we can live with, right? Some we can't live without, personally. I'm a diabetic, but still, Toblerone's got my heart. But for me, and again, I shared this to you last year, this is a new giving pyramid, and in my view, no matter where you focus, you can find someone that will throw every theory of fundraising away. Because there are very influential, powerful people that you can attract through an event, like Chai for Cancer, that you traditionally think you wouldn't find unless you were using the top end of the pyramid as a basis for your fundraising strategy. So for me, like tech is changing everything, I think the way in which we're approaching fundraising has got a level playing field, and we can find the same results at every part of the journey. So irrespective of whether you're going for a corporate grant or whether you're running an event, what do all channels have in common? Can we think, and please shout out some thoughts, what has every single method of fundraising got in common? There must be some things that are unified and exist at every level. Any ideas? A target? Yes, that's really good. So every fundraising channel requires a target. You need to know what you're going for. An objective? Absolutely. Someone said a plan. Does every fundraising channel have a plan? It should, right? Yeah. You need a plan, whether you're going in to ask for $1 million or you're launching an event. Say again? Needs. Expand on that. So every fundraising channel has needs. Funding needs, like unmet needs, yeah. So I like needs. I'll keep it up there because I think that's the simplest way. But if you're asking for something, they're going to say, well, what is it for? So say again? Communication. Every fundraising, not necessarily, actually, does it? Communication, yes. If I'm asking a major giver for $1 million, I still need to communicate. So very much. Okay. Action and which, sorry? Action and how to. Strategy, plan, action plan. Action plan's simpler, right? And that can mean strategy. I've typed so much I've forgotten how to write. Okay, this is good. I didn't expect you to know all this, yeah? Sorry, behind you, yeah? Mission. A mission. Tell me more.
You know, that's more long term.
Yep.
So when you get them booked on a mission, then they can stay on with you.
How many patient groups have a vision and a mission? So about half. So that means half of us haven't thought or just forgot to put their hand up about what the group's mission is. And you're right, absolutely, that is a very important part of anything you do. Have a mission in mind. Anything else? Plan B. Plan B. What if the donor says no? A few of you said, let's be conservative. We need to keep our ducks in a row. We need to be transparent. We need to be compliant. And with that comes disaster planning, plan B, plan C. I love that. That's a great answer. One I certainly didn't see. Anything else? There's still one missing. Transparency. Transparency. Yes, we haven't really covered that. I mean, I could arguably fall under something like that. Transparency. Okay?
Project proposal with the same as the plan.
Project proposal. I think the plan is, well, there's an internal plan. How are we going to do this? And then there's an external plan to say to your sponsors, this is how we're going to do it. So proposal, it's not for every channel. So that's not common. What has every channel got in common? And I did this last year, guys. Remember, it was a different question. We're giving the same answers. An ask. Every fundraising channel, every method you do must involve an ask. And I've been watching you all year. I'm connected to some Max foundations, I see some comms, and I have to say, very seldom do I actually see an ask. Imagine, and this is for Big Pharma Guy, in every single email, every post, every communication, we included the fact that we rely on public donations. Because you do. I mean, of course, you have other sources of funding, you have grants, but imagine if every auto-signature said, we need public funding, or we rely on public funding. We can tweak the words this afternoon and include a donate link. There are several stories I've seen Mei Ching post and think, wow, I love what you just did in the workshop, but how can I help you? I don't know, move on. You lost me. So an ask is a very important thing. Do I need to clarify that anymore? I see a few people going, we understand. We all hate to ask, but yet we are trying to become fundraisers. I hate it. It's awkward. But for me, this is a very important thing. Anything else? Tax? Ideally, we don't want any tax. But do you mean tax gift receipts, etc.? Or
just like tax asking, if you really want to hit the big, you know, people who give you the money, actually, if we not register, and because they are focused on that, they will get the tax return or not.
yeah. I think that's very important. I'd argue it's not a common one. It's a strategy in itself. In Singapore, the government, I think, have committed through to 2017 a 3.5 times tax return. Is that right? Or at the very least, there's a three times return on any donations. That's incredible. That could be used as a fundraising ask in itself. To corporates, give 100,000, write it off as a tax return or tax deduction. So yes, but that's getting specific. Anything else? Okay, we shall move on. So I guess because of these things and because we haven't got the time nor need to be specific in every channel, let us focus on the relationships and focus on the strategies rather than the channel. I think the channels will come to you naturally as you become more learned about the approach that we'll take today. Above all, guys, the biggest thing is to keep it simple. Do you know how easy it is to overcomplicate something? My son is 3, he's just learning to lie. He's very good at overcomplicating stories and confusing himself. It's a kind of skill we pick up very early on, trying to get the candy from the jar. But to keep it simple is an art form. And that is what we could all be very good at. Now, I showed you this slide last time. It was about tech. I am a technologist, and I think I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't share some stats with you. We've mentioned crowdfunding a little. I want you to understand how big it's becoming in this region. It's a big industry across the world, being led by the States. But now, in Asia, we're the second largest crowdfunding region by amount. We've crowdfunded $3.4 billion last year. So there is something about crowdfunding that we could really do well to focus on around social crowdfunding. Right now, what I'm finding trending in tech, and this is all in your books, guys, is that mobile social is the hottest digital trend in APAC, being led almost exclusively by VJ. In the front there. Hi. We are all accessing social channels via our mobile devices. And in Asia, that's a big thing. More than 1 billion people using mobile social by the end of this year. So social strategies are something we do well to get on top of in these sessions as well. Our population across the wider region has reached 4 billion, and yet the internet population is growing 4 times faster. Every month, there are more than 1 million new internet users across the region. And lastly, mobile internet is dominating. So I'm using a computer, but they're far and few between now. I can only see a few on the tables in front of me. Most of us are using tablets and phones to access the internet moving forward. So if you are choosing this afternoon to focus on technology as a channel, you can. This would be very important for you to take into account. Any questions around tech stats or tech in general? Okay. I can hear tummies rumbling. I will say, guys, in the report, there is a QR code you can use to scan and access this full report that I got these statistics from. There's also a web address in there as well, I believe, so you can download this PDF that has detailed breakdown of each region that's represented in this room. Okay, can anyone tell me when the first ever crowdfunding campaign was launched? Does anyone want to guess? Yep. First ever crowdfunding campaign. Think. What do you think? Say again, sorry? A year? No. Obama's campaign. Good guess, Rod? No. 1885. And it was this lady. So the Statue of Liberty was a gift from the French peoples to America. They sent it over, but they forgot to give her a pedestal to stand on. And so the people of New York needed to fundraise to build that pedestal, and they did it through newspapers. And they said to the people of New York, give $1, give $5 to make this a reality. And they rewarded the crowdfunding. For every $5 donation, everyone got a replica Statue of Liberty. I wish I could get my hands on one of those now. $5 then was probably a lot of money, relatively speaking. But the point I'm trying to make here is don't be miffed by technology or overwhelmed by it. Crowdfunding is something that has existed socially since biblical times. It's really just a social mechanism that technology has allowed to amplify. Thanks to tech, we can all do this very well and very effectively now. Who uses Uber? Great. I use Uber, and I admire Uber not because of the technology that's behind it, because of how simple Uber is to use. It's such a great experience, and that's to me what and it's convenient and disruptive, but to me that's what makes the product so powerful. And so this whole theme of keeping it simple, I think, is something we'd do well to focus on today. This is the crowdfunding model. Very simple. You have an idea. What's your idea? We need a bus to bring treatments to the villages because they're not coming into the centers to get their medicine. So let us fundraise for a bus, and let's put that to the masses and give them an amount that that bus costs. They will fund it, and my idea becomes a reality. It's as simple as that. So I would argue, guys, that tech is not a sector. In fact, technology overlays everything, especially health. Look at the advances being made in tech with wearable monitoring devices, etc. It's something that impacts everything we do. Does anyone know who this gentleman is? His name's Eric Schmidt. He was the CEO of Google. He said something last year that was quite profound. He said, by next year, the internet will disappear. This is the CEO of Google saying the internet will disappear. By that, he meant it will become so seamless, we won't even know we're connected. And he's right. Smart watches, mobile devices, the Internet of Things, where your fridge will know your milk is running out before you do, and probably be able to order it online and deliver it by the time you come back from work. So technology is becoming this all-seeing, seamless, amazing aid to life. Now, I want to show you something. It's a book called The Brutal Simplicity of Thought. Has anyone heard of this before? I brought one to give away to the most innovative person or idea I hear over the next afternoon and morning. This is actually an internal book given to all new members of staff at an ad agency called MC Saatchi, or Saatchi & Saatchi. And it became so popular internally, they've published a book about it. And it contains all the simplest ideas in the world and how they made the biggest difference. Simplicity is everything, guys. The first line of the Quran actually explains the whole book and the whole belief and the whole religious set, as does the first sentence of the Bible. It's the simple things that are incredibly effective. And technology tends to overdo things a lot. Have a look at this.
So, it starts with the branded playlist on Spotify. But if you Shazam any one of those tracks, you get a hidden, unposted YouTube video. And this is of someone huge, like Justin Bieber or Grizzly Bear. And they're singing a song we call hashtag. Then if you actually tweet hashtag, we retweet your tweet with a short code. And that takes you to our Instagram feed. But in actuality, each one of those pictures is just a small little piece of a gigantic QR code. And if you solve the code, it takes you to Pinterest. You see everything that you've already seen, but on a Pinterest page, plus one photo. It's a snapseed of a bit.ly where if you go to it, you can redeem Ren points to get into a private celebrity group meet.
So what I'm looking for today, no matter what projects you decide to focus on, is the simplest idea that will have the biggest impact. And that person will get a copy of this book. It's worth getting your hands on anyhow. I think you can access most of it online. Simple things make a big difference. Look at this message. Handbag, €32. Food for a week, €4. Sunglasses, 24. Access to water, 8. It's quite powerful, isn't it? There's a few of you going like this. It was a very, very successful campaign out of the UK that used the simplicity and power of imagery and comparison to deliver a message. And I'm sure we could find the metrics of our treatments and tests that could be comparable to this kind of comparison. Images like this don't really inspire me anymore. Everyone's trying to do good. Everyone should try to do good. And we are in a very cluttered market, aren't we? You've all said it, like everyone's asking for $1, and I see these protests all the time. But the thing is, what I want to know is, how are you doing good? Why is what you do worth my support? So that's really what this is about. So from this afternoon, let's explore the channels available to us. Let's go through new strategies for your existing projects. A few of you have events coming up. We can use this workshop to really fine-tune what you have ahead of you, and we can also review what you've achieved so far. One thing, guys, to be honest, I've seen in all these posters and the presentations this morning, the results and objectives are great, but very few are measurable. You want to raise awareness, but how do you measure that? You want to raise money, but what's your target? So I'd love to come out of this afternoon with better sets of objectives so we can measure its success. Why? So we know what to focus on the following year. So in closing, Your Honor, nothing has changed. Nothing is new. And in the same breath, everything has changed because the way we can achieve things is so much easier today.